In this video, I want to show you how to install AT-Robots through Dosbox on an Ubuntu Linux system. That's the type of operating system I use, and I know we typically have a few students in each section of CS220 who like to use that operating system as their primary as well. So I want to make sure you know how to do it, at least the way I do it, so that you can get everything to work for class. So let's get right to it. The first thing we would need to do is acquire the AT-Robots bundle from the Blackboard webpage. So when we go to download it, it'll start up right away. Um, save it wherever you like. I prefer to make things, I don't know, I just prefer to put it right here in my root drive or root of my home directory. So I'll go ahead and replace the file now just for the sake of demonstration. Then we need to get Dosbox. Now you can, if you prefer, go to the Dosbox website and download packages there. But most Linux distros are going to have Dosbox built into their package management system. So I'm going to use that instead. So to do that in my Ubuntu system, I'm going to open up a command terminal, and then I would just sudo apt install Dosbox. In my case, after entering the superuser password or my password, uh, it'll go through, quickly acquire the Dosbox software and install it. It's not very large, so it shouldn't take too long. There, it's done. So now I need to point Dosbox at something. So I'm going to open up my file manager and go to the home drive where I've got this zip file, and I'm going to go ahead and extract it here, and that'll create this directory right in my home drive, the DOSBox directory, all caps on DOS, and then capital B. Since Linux as well as Mac systems are case sensitive when it comes to doing stuff, you need to remember that. So inside of this directory are some slides that I'm going to be using in a variety of the videos. You may even seen them already in the introduction to AT-Robot video. But then the main folder that we care about is the AT-Robots folder. That has all the stuff to run AT-Robots and all the example robot programs. So what we're going to do is have AT-Robots point to that. Now I've made a configuration file for DOSBox right here that will point DOSBox to this folder so that it can use stuff there appropriate for AT-Robots. So all we really should need to do to get the basics rolling is to go into that DOSBox directory, the one with the capital DOS, excuse me, and change directories there. And then once we're in here, we can run the DOSBox program from the command line. Now this is not the DOSBox executable that is in the zip file I gave you. This is the one we just installed through the apt package system. But it is going to look for a system-wide DOSBox configuration file to run in the event that it can't find anything local. And first it's going to look in the current directory. Since the DOSBox directory we've unzipped has a DOSBox configuration file in it, it's going to use that. If there wasn't one, it would look for one in your user's home directory, and then if there wasn't one there, it would go to the system-wide. But we're going to use the one local to this directory. So when we run it, up will pop our AT-Robots GUI from which we can launch and AT-Robots battle. I could quickly turn off the sound, remembering that it makes terrible beeps. But that's all it takes to get things going here in Linux. Now when we escape out of this a bunch and escape past the necrobones splash, we'll end up back at the terminal ready to go. One more thing unique to the Linux and Unix-y world installations of this is you have to keep in mind that AT-Robots is actually a DOS program. So it's intended to run the way DOS software runs, and it runs in the DOS operating system inside a Dosbox, or I guess it's the free DOS operating system, a clone of DOS. But that operating system has a two-character end-of-line sequence, carriage return followed by line feed. And so every new line, every /n that we might write in a C program, for example, to a file, is really going to be two characters uh, according to the DOS world. So if you're a Linux or some other form of Unix user, excuse me, you're going to find out, or if you didn't know it, eventually you will learn, like maybe now, that your text files don't have the two-character carriage return line feed sequence. They have some other single-character sequence. So if you create new files from scratch in your favorite Linux editor to be ATRobot source code files, you may find that when you load them up into ATRobots, they do absolutely nothing at all. The robot just sits there. The reason for this is because very often at the top of our program files we have a comment that leads a block header that says things like what the name of the program is, what it does, who the author is, etc., followed by all the code. Well, if a DOS system opens up a file created in Unix or Linux, it's going to reach what was the end of the line, and instead of finding the right two-character sequence that's for DOS, it'll find a one-character end of line meant for a completely different operating system. And the DOS code is just not that clever, so it says, aha, here's a weird character, but it's not the end of a line, and so it continues to the next bytes in the file, which are really the next line. What ends up happening aggregately is it thinks the entire file is part of one super long line, and it started with a comment, which means the whole file is commented out and your robot just sits there doing nothing. So when you get a robot that does nothing, that's your first signal that you may need to make sure that your editor is saving these files with DOS end of line carriage return line feed sequences. Another thing you can do is to create new robots by opening existing demo robots that are already in the DOS format, saving them in the new file name, and then just deleting their contents and typing your stuff in. Almost every text editor around will keep the line ending system that was used for any file that it opened. So there you have it. That's how you get things up and running with ATRobots on the Linux operating system.